I would say it will help you get more clients because people are going to trust you. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand with retaining your clients because I think that's always very important to retain clients in your world for longer versus having to get new ones. But when you gain that trust from clients and you created this great client experience for them because of your systems and they felt taken care of the entire time, then they're going to refer other people to you, and that's going to help you get more clients and more work, and it's just going to help your reputation grow because people are going to be like, oh, like she is just the expert at X, Y, and Z, and she has taken such good care of me. I know she's going to do the same for you.
If you want to make more sales without the pressure to post on social media, I made this podcast specifically for you. I'm Leslie Stevens, and this is the Not an Influencer, an Impact Maker podcast, where we talk about other organic marketing strategies to bring more clients into your online business and the stories of the incredible entrepreneurs who are using these strategies in their businesses every day to create success. You do not have to be an influencer to be an impact maker and build a successful online business. Today we get to chat with Jenny, and I can't wait because what she does is so essential to helping people get clients into their business. So Jenny, can you tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Leslie. I'm so excited to chat today. And for those of you that don't know me, I am a business operations consultant. So my clients will also refer to me as like their in-house COO, the integrator to their visionary, or sometimes even their business therapist, which I think is kind of funny. So just some background about me, I spent over 8 years in the corporate space prior to entrepreneurship, and I've been a part of so many different kinds of teams and business functions from finance, supply chain management, operations, and product marketing. So I basically took all of my knowledge and I leverage it to help my clients with streamlining their back end systems. And I really just want to help my clients go from scattered and overwhelmed to focused, profitable, and balanced.
It's so important to have systems, and it's such an underrated thing that we talk
It
about in
is.
entrepreneurship. So before we get into that and the magic of systems, can you tell us a little bit about what transitioned you from corporate into the entrepreneurial world?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just going to assume like many entrepreneurs who were probably in corporate before, you probably like I personally experienced a lot of burnout, and I was just super unhappy with just working for somebody else. And I just, I had to quit for my mental health. And
Mhm.
when I quit, it was January or February 2020. So it was like right before the pandemic. So my pivot was going to be take a break and then regroup, go find another corporate job. But then the pandemic happened. So I was like, okay, another pivot. I'm going to see what I can do to just kind of do my own thing. So I first actually helped my husband with his business. So I kind of helped him set up systems in terms of like his managing his team, managing his client projects. And that was kind of like my aha moment, like, oh, I can leverage all these things that I'm really good at and make a business with this. So that's kind of how I started.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I wish earlier in my entrepreneurial career, people really talked about systems more because when you get started, I feel like that's such a good time to start developing systems that will keep you from running in circles for sometimes years. Because you see people who are doing the same repeated tasks over and over again, or they're disorganized with their clients, or they're disorganized with their team, and it's hard to keep up, and it really starts to flow outwards when you're trying to grow and things like that. So can you tell
Mhm.
us a little bit more about how develop how to develop a system that helps your business in the very beginning?
Yeah, so I love that. Well, first of all, I want to say Yes, I totally agree with you in that it's not something that is talked about, right? It's more like, I gotta grow and hit those 10K months and get as many clients as possible, and you're not really thinking about the systems that you need to back up to support all of the clients and all the work that you're supposed to deliver, right?
Mhm.
And so I think when you are starting out, what I think is super important is knowing, so most of us, I'm assuming, are going to be, some kind of service-based provider, right? And I think it is so important to map out exactly how, like, what are all those touch points from somebody first coming into your world as like a lead, or maybe somebody, consuming your content, like what are those touch points for them to then be able to be like, oh, maybe I want to hop on a call with them. Maybe I want to learn
Mhm.
more about them. Okay, then what's going to happen next? Do I have to send them a contract and proposal and invoice? What happens when I need to start onboarding them and actually serving them and delivering my service to them? I think what is really important is getting those map pieces of the whole, sales through delivery to offboarding pieces mapped out for your clients, because I think that is something that is very overlooked. It's,
Mhm.
you want to make sure that you are taking care of your clients. And I think that systems are where you can lean on to make sure that you're delivering that, really great experience for them.
Mhm. And I think systems can sometimes sound so intimidating
Yeah.
and like thinking about, oh, I need to map out that whole client journey. But when
Hmm.
you sit down and you write it all out, it helps simplify it in your mind so much more, and it
Exactly.
becomes far less intimidating when you're like, "Oh, I know exactly what happens next," or "I know exactly what I need to do or what's expected of me." And when you get really confident in that process and in that system, that confidence is going to filter over into your clients, and they're going to be confident working with you because they can tell you know what's supposed to happen next in their process with you.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
how do you go about helping people be less intimidated by building systems?
Yeah. So I know when I work with my clients, most of the time people are going to be, those visionaries, and that maybe they aren't the most organized people. I mean, there is the rare breed who are like super, super driven and also like knows exactly how to create systems, but not obviously that's not everybody's skill. And what I like to do is it's really just mapping out the step by step and, just in small pieces of your business. I'm like, okay, so how do you onboard a client? Like, what is the trigger? What's like the starting point to be like, okay, we're going to onboard them. Then what happens next? What happens next? What happens next? And I mean, most of the time that kind of stuff is living in your head, but if you like you were talking about getting it out on paper, it just frees up your head, right? Because you generally probably have an idea of like everything you're supposed to do, but if you're keeping it in your head, it's going to feel overwhelming, juggling all that knowledge and having to like think about it instead of having it mapped out and living somewhere that, pieces of the whole process can be delegated to somebody else on your team, and you know exactly what you have to do. And it's just really breaking it down step by step.
Mhm. So, do you find when you're designing these systems or helping people set them up, do you feel like you're adding more elements in there, or do you feel like sometimes you're really cutting back and simplifying and streamlining things?
I think for the most part, I am cutting back and streamlining and simplifying. And I feel like most people will overcomplicate it. And I'm gonna see your system and your process as is, and then I'm gonna look at it and say, hey, I think that we can like condense this, or maybe we can use a software or an automation to kind of speed that up. So, maybe it's like an automated email, or maybe it's some kind of like automated task that gets assigned to a team member when something else happens. It's like, I'm going to see what we can automate, what we can cut out, really. And I feel like instead of us having to do things manually. So, yeah, I would say I'm not really trying to add things and make it more complex.
Yeah. So when it comes to like simplifying things and having this system that is already put together, laid out for you, you know what to expect, the things that you can automate are automated. How do all of these things help entrepreneurs get more clients?
Yeah, so I would say it will help you get more clients because people are going to trust you. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand with retaining your clients because I think that's always very important to retain clients in your world for longer versus having to get new ones. But when you gain that trust from clients and you created this great client experience for them because of your systems and they felt taken care of the entire time, then they're going to refer other people to you. And that's going to help you get more clients and more work. And it's just going to help your reputation grow because people are going to be like, oh, like she is just the expert at X, Y, and Z, and she has taken such good care of me. I know she's going to do the same for you. So that's kind of where I see operations and systems helping with getting clients and retaining clients.
Yeah. People are always really surprised because I'm in marketing and people think of marketing as like, okay, what are you shouting out to the world? That
Mhm.
external marketing. And I try and bring people back to the internal marketing and that client experience that you're talking about. Like how does your client feel in the process of working with you? Is it easy
Mhm.
for them? Are you creating this path of least resistance? Are they growing confidence in you during this process? And it's like, if you have that refined, if you have your system in place and they can feel it, and it allows you to stay in your zone of genius and really support them more than thinking, oh my gosh, I need to write an email to send it to them at this point because I finished this aspect of their project or something like that. They're going to be able to tell. And those referrals, like you said, those referrals are the strongest and most powerful way to get new clients into your business. And I think that's so essential. But everyone's focused about, like, okay, what am I going to post? What am I going to put
Mhm.
out there? And it's like, okay, let's flip business and the way we market on its head and start
Yep.
with the internal part, doing what you do really, really well. And when you're in a service based business, most of us have these skills. Like you have the skill of designing the systems, and I have the skill of marketing, and somebody might have a different skill of copywriting. And like you want to be able to stay in that zone and do your job instead of all of the back end things that come with being an entrepreneur that we kind of don't really expect to happen when we start a
Yep.
business. We think like, okay, I'm going to do this job and I'm going to do what I do to help this person, but you don't think of all of those things that can be so messy. But
Mhm.
once you get Jenny in there to streamline all of it, then you can go back into kind of just doing your job more and freeing up all of that mental space. Because I don't know about you, but when I wasn't clear on my system or even how I was marketing my business, it's easy to get distracted by shiny objects or should I try it this way or should I try that way or trying so many different ways at once. Like you said, you
Mhm.
simplify that. Like the mental capacity that takes up kind of starts to muddle what you're actually trying to do and the impact that you
Mhm.
make. Did you feel that way at any point?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I personally came from corporate and, you only have to take care of just one piece of the gigantic puzzle that is the whole business. But then when you become an entrepreneur and a business owner, all of that stuff falls under your purview, right? So like you have to make sure you're taking care of the sales and the marketing and the admin and the invoicing and the calls. Like there's a million different things, right? And you're like, but I wish I could just focus on doing what I'm really good at doing for my clients. But obviously you got to figure out all the other pieces of the business. And yeah, because like you said, it's the mental capacity, that mental load is just like, you're just like having it all in your head and you don't really have like you know, a step-by-step process, it's gonna be very, very difficult in the beginning, and I definitely experienced that because there were things for me that I was like, "Oh my gosh, wait, how do I, like, create content regularly?" It's like, things that I never really thought about and, I realized like, oh, creating content on the fly, just like the day of, and trying to create like a caption and like creating the graphic, just it's not efficient at all whatsoever. So you really
Mhm.
got to like plan things out, you know, batch content, like batch your work, put some kind of system into place for like a thing like creating content. And it's just going to save you so much time and energy,
Mhm.
which, yeah, it took me a bit to figure that out. And I was like, okay, now, I have a system for like creating my content and publishing it. But yeah, that's just like one piece. And it definitely takes a bit in the beginning.
Yeah. And allowing yourself that space to figure out your system and what's going to actually work best for you. What would be your best advice if someone is just trying to develop systems in their business, but something's not clicking or it's not working right and it feels like it's a huge barrier instead of helpful for them? How would you help them work through that?
So I would just say, honestly, look at it as is, just map it out as the system currently is. And I know, yeah, maybe it feels difficult and you're like, it doesn't feel like it's working great. I still want you to look at what the end to end process is as is. And then identify those pieces where, like, where is there friction? Why is there friction? Like,
Mhm.
does it feel very hard because there's lack of clarity in terms of, you know, maybe once this client signs and returns the contract, is it unclear of who on your account team is supposed to like take over the account? Like how is like the handoff supposed to happen? Is it because there's pieces of information lacking? Is it that we don't know who's supposed to, own something? And I think you just really need to step back and kind of identify, why does it feel like there's friction, and where is the friction, and what can we do to resolve it? And I know that that can definitely feel very daunting, and because I've definitely been there, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I don't know why, but you just kind of have to think it over. You got to review it, and you really have to, because it's going to be custom to the way that your business, your team functions.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I hope that kind of answers it.
Yeah, I think zooming out and looking at that big picture from end to end is so important because sometimes we're too far in it, or we know one
Yes.
piece really, really well, and we don't know where we're getting stuck until we zoom out and step back and like take that CEO kind of like
Hmm.
vision into it. I also
Hmm.
think some people give up on systems a little too quickly,
I
especially
agree.
when they're new or they're just trying to implement something, because I think sometimes you will probably be able to speak to this a little bit better, but when you're implementing something new, it's always going to feel a little bit weird.
Hmm. Yes, I agree. It's when I work with clients and we're putting a new process in place, like it's going to be hard. Like, maybe the team and yourself, like you're used to doing it a certain way, but when you're just trying to change the way you do it, it is going to be a work in progress, like to train yourself to do it a new way. But I think you just have to zoom out, like you said, be in that
Mhm.
CEO role and think long term, like, this is going to save you guys like time, money, whatever it is. And just try to like keep working at it to get yourself on board with the new system.
Mhm. And I think another thing about like not giving up too soon, it's trying to like pull your emotions out of it. That's why I love systems so much, because a lot of entrepreneurs go on feeling a lot of the time. They're like, "Oh, this
Hmm.
doesn't feel good," or "I do feel that resistance, like I need a different plan. I need something new." And sometimes the system's actually working really, really well. It's just that you're going more based off of feeling than you are on actual results.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's part of zooming out and like looking at the actual data. And sometimes that can release the resistance to it as well, because you think, oh, these actions that I'm taking there are not working, or they're not producing the result that I want because I feel like it's not happening. But it
Yeah.
actually is.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned data. And I think that is like, it's like a whole nother conversation for another day. But honestly, like if you have data that can help you with measuring the effectiveness of a system, and it's normally going to be something like your time tracking data. Like I really recommend tracking your time with whatever task you are doing and documenting that. You'll be able to see like, oh, maybe it took me an hour to onboard this client before, but now it takes me only 30 minutes or something like that, right? You want to be
Hmm.
able to have that data to fall back on. Maybe it's like this new system, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel good, but you have the data to kind of help support, like, oh, no, this actually saved me so much time.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to prove it to yourself too, because
Yes.
we have so many options out there when we're looking for systems or when we're looking for processes. And sometimes you just need that proof to be confident. Like, I need to stick with this path long enough for it to really like blow up the results or amplify or magnify what I really want, because we think business is an overnight success and like we get one process, we've got one system, it's automatically going to funnel us all of these clients or something like that. And the reality of it is your systems, your processes, they all have to build up over time.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. You have to measure things. And you're going to have to measure it, test it, and then you'll have to tweak it. Probably, most likely, like your systems are always going to be evolving and changing. And it's not something that you should be setting it once and you're like, oh, this is it. This is how it's going to be. Like, no, your business is going to change like in a year, 2 years. Like, think about how you're going to be growing. And that those systems are going to have to grow with you and they're always going to have to change just to accommodate the future of your business.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign when your system has to evolve with you.
I agree because that means, you're growing. You and your business are growing and changing, and you don't want to stay stuck and stagnant in the same place, right? You want your systems to be evolving and you want your whole business to be growing. So I agree. I think it's always a good sign.
Yeah. So, what would your best three tips be for somebody who's in the beginning years of their business to move forward faster?
I would say document, document, document. And what I mean is, it can be like creating a screen recorded video of you walking through how to do a task in your business. But documentation is super important for knowledge transfer, training new team members. So again, that's like a big thing that I would like to emphasize. Second, I want to go back to the time tracking thing. I think it is so important to track your time, especially in the beginning as a solopreneur CEO, because this is going to go hand in hand with the things that you do want to hand off to other people on your team as you grow and as your business expands. So, like, look at the tasks that you are tracking your time for, like what takes you a lot of time and what do you not enjoy doing. Those are things that you can be handing off to somebody in the future. And then third is just really creating a great client experience and taking care of your clients, because I have seen so many horror stories of like people working with service providers and they're like, oh, they just like didn't do what they promised or they ghosted me. And I really want you to, not obviously not have that reputation and just like really make sure that you are communicating with your clients every step of the way, making sure that you are delivering above and beyond what they are expecting. So those
Hmm.
are three things that I think are very, very important, especially in the beginning stages of business.
Oh, definitely. I know that from my own experience as well. So,
Yeah.
if you didn't catch all three, go ahead, rewind, listen to those again, and make sure you write them down, because even like tracking your time, we think, oh, like, I don't have the time to track all my time, but you will be surprised, especially if you're at a point in your business where you feel like, oh, I don't have enough time to do more or do all of these things, and you feel kind of frantic and busy all the time. You will be so surprised by the amount of time that you actually have, or the
Exactly.
time that you're spending doing things that may not actually be moving the needle for your business. And it's going to allow you to focus on the things that are actually going to get you from step one to step two, and then step two to step three. So that's something that no matter where you are in business, I feel like it's important to kind of know where you're spending that time and energy and effort.
I agree. Yeah. I know that it's not an activity that is the most fun, but at least track it for a week at a time, like a week, a quarter, or something to start, just to see like how you're spending your time generally. And I think, yeah, the results will surprise you.
Yeah, I was like personally astounded when I started setting a timer for just working for like 20 or 50-minute increments and not checking my email and not checking my phone, little things like that, like how much I was actually able to get done. And I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh my gosh, that is painfully like glaring about what I need to change in the way that I worked." But if I never did that, I would have never realized, and I would have always felt busy. I would have always felt like, oh, I don't have enough time to take all those calls or something like that. But there's a way to make things work for you in your life. And it's just looking at the data, building the systems, and making it work for you. So,
Exactly.
Jenny, where can people find you to connect with you and potentially work with you?
Yeah, so I am most active on Instagram and LinkedIn. I'll make sure that I share the link with you guys, and you can also find me on my website at jennymjones.com.
Perfect. And all those links are down there in the description. So connect with her, ask her all of the questions about systems. I'm sure she would be happy to help you build those into your business starting now, because it's never too early for a good system, right?
Oh, yes, I agree. Never too early and never too late. So don't worry.
Exactly. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
What if I told you there was a way to get more leads in your online business without having to post on social media? That's something you'd want to know more about, right? Well, you can learn exactly that in my free training, where I will teach you how to leverage simple conversations to turn strangers into paying clients, as well as how to borrow other people's audiences to build your authority, credibility, and connect with new potential clients, as well as how to make sales simple and easy. Click the link in the description or go to Client Connection Method